me, what is a numerologist? Because everybody has a little bit of a different take on it. What is your definition of a numerologist? How do you tie things together?
Okay, well, I think I would define a numerologist, meaning, kind of like the receptor. I think you have to have an aptitude for numerology. I think you have to have talent as far as understanding, the language of numerology. And I think that's what a numerologist does, is able to understand the language of this ancient divination tool and be able to apply it. So I kind of look at you as, as being a go-between, between the information, and you're just, able to take that information and interpret it and make it something that is insightful for your clients. So, and it takes study. I mean, certainly you have to study numerology. I think that you could never say that I know everything there is to know about numerology. Right. I think there's something always to learn. So for me, I own a library of numerology books. I always am interested in reading about numerology. Even though I already know it, I'm always looking for that gem of information that perhaps another numerologist might share in their book. Perhaps a perspective that I hadn't looked at before, but it's always a journey of learning. And you take what you know and you just help people with that knowledge. So that's what a numerologist is.
So do you take significant number patterns, if you will, and tie that to a person's life, or tie that to a person's history in life, and maybe potentially also predict some sort of a future outcome or direction, maybe I should say?
Well, if you actually understand what a person's numerology is telling, each person's numerology is unique unto them, because you're doing calculations, you're getting their numbers based upon the day that they were born, so their date of birth, and the name that they were given at birth. And so that's very unique to each person. It would defy the odds for two people to be born on the exact same day being given the exact same name. So we all have unique charts. And if you understand what the numerology chart, the information that it's giving you about that particular person, it's talking about, what their talents and abilities are, what makes them the unique individual that they are. Why do we dream the dreams that we dream? Why do we aspire to become the things we become? Numerology can explain all of that. But also contained in that information are information about our challenges in life, like certain, these Achilles heel, these things that sometimes trip us up. Numerology goes into challenges. It also defines the energy in our lives that gives us our opportunities. So in that sense, certainly it can be a predictive tool. This would explain why at certain times in our life we are going in a certain direction, and then suddenly perhaps, life changes and we have these different opportunities. And if you truly understand numerology and you're looking at that aspect of the chart, you can predict how your life will change in directions, or perhaps the activity in your life throughout life. And you can get very specific about the future with numerology, especially when you're applying things like personal years, transits, and essences and personal months, and that can pretty much define what's going on in a person's life on a year-to-year basis. So there's a tremendous amount of information in a numerology chart, from the get-go.
Well, and I know you offered me one, and I didn't ignore you. It has been a crazy week for me with travel, and I'm going to send you some information because I've never received anything like that. What is on a when a client comes to you? What are some of the things that are on a numerology chart? What are some of the indicators, if you will?
Okay. Well, we have if you're just taking a look at certain things, the life path number is derived from the date of birth, and that really is very strong energy in people. So depending on what your number is, it will define what your energy is, what your natural born talents and abilities are. Your birthday number, the actual day that you're born, is another number that's an indicator of specialized talents that you have, that you brought to help you out with your mission in life. When we look at the name and we break that down and we get the number for the name, that's talking about your actual destiny, or what it is you came here to do. And that certainly is going to be the direction of your life. Now, are you going to use that birthday, the day you're born, to get there? Yes. Are you going to use the talents and abilities in your life path number to assist you? Yes. But the name is telling us, what is it that you came to do? There's also a number that's called the Heart's Desire number that comes from the vowels in your name. And this is really what feeds your soul, what makes you happy, what gives you your greatest joy. We have the personality number that comes from the consonants in the name. And that's really how people perceive you. If someone was to, maybe give adjectives of after they met you of what they got from you, it would probably be along the lines of the personality number. The challenges are written into everyone's numerology chart. And as I said, these are usually things that sometimes we have to work on in life and overcome. And once we've overcome the challenges, they become our greatest talents. Another aspect is the pinnacles. Everyone has 4 pinnacles that they go through in life. Each one has a number. And the pinnacles really is the road that you're on. It is the opportunities that you have to use your talents and abilities. And I could go on and on and on.
Now, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, can you? I've heard of some people wanting they get a numerology chart, but can that yourself as a numerologist? Can you break things down? I mean, if you really wanted to go super detailed, can they actually be broken down literally into hours and days?
Well, you probably you can break it down into days. What I do I literally start at the beginning from the day you were born, and I look at each year of your life and walk you through your life. And when I'm doing a complete and full reading for my clients, so I literally take them up to the present moment, and I can identify specific things that occur in your life quite accurately using the information in a numerology chart. But if you wanted to go by days, absolutely, everyone has a day number. So if you're looking for a specific day, perhaps let's say you're going for an interview and you want to have a successful interview, it'd be nice to know what your personal day is and pick one that would be most advantageous for a positive outcome. So yeah, you can go right down to the day if you like, hour, whatever you want.
So here in that old term of I'm having a bad day today, there may be more to that than we really think. Absolutely.
Or a bad month or a bad year.
Yeah. Had a lot of those lately.
That's one of the bad things about being a numerologist is being able to predict your own future. And it's like, my chart right now is just really having a difficult year, and I'm like, sometimes I would just rather not know, especially when you're applying it to yourself.
We actually had somebody send a question in and said, how far back do numerology charts? How long have they been used, and how far back do they go, and by whom have these charts? I mean, what's the history of the numerology charts?
Well, as far as charts go, numerology has evolved in time, okay? But if you really want to trace it back to its roots, you can trace it back to Pythagoras, who lived in 560 A.D. And a lot of the knowledge that we use in numerology really comes from his teachings. And he had an opportunity. First and foremost, his birth was foretold, and he did have an opportunity to travel and study with some of the greatest religious leaders of the time. And a lot of the wisdom and knowledge in numerology comes from ancient cultures like Rome, Egypt, Greece, China. It even has ties to the Hebrew Kabbalah. So if you really want to go way back, that's where you really need to go, and that's where it originated. But through time, it has evolved.
Gotcha. Now, are there different types of charts? I understand that there's a Hebrew type of chart. Is that correct? Are there several different charts?
There's different. I wouldn't call them charts. I would say different types of numerology.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Interesting. It seems like I guess to some degree we've all been set loose on a life path, and maybe we don't even realize that the path is there.
Well, that's what was fascinating to me about numerology was that, I would have to say I'm a skeptic. And in order for me to, be all in on something. It really has to be accurate. It has to work. And so my original fascination with numerology was just proving that it worked. Mm-hmm. And it does. It absolutely does work. It can be extremely accurate. And so in that sense, if we all understood that there is an instruction manual, that there really is a GPS system to our lives, and if we all, became more aware of our numerology chart and what it had to say, there's some really wonderful advice in a chart mm-hmm. To help us stay on path and to help us, perhaps avoid pitfalls. It can be really insightful to truly understand your numerology chart and use it throughout your life.
Okay, I'm going to go a little outside the lines with you here for a second.
Sure.
Okay, you're a Reiki master as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume that you believe in life after paranormal. I don't. Sure. Paranormal is kind of that's kind of a ghost hunting term. I think that's been thrown out. But life before and life after. Do you think that I've heard many people say that they feel that they have gone around a couple of times. That a lot of people feel that they have they have picked this life, they have picked their future, they have picked their life course. Do you think that there could be a possibility that in picking that life course, maybe when we were maybe in another form as a ball of energy, or if you want to call it a whatever it is, before we became human on this planet, do you think that we might have looked at one of these type of charts or brought one of these type of charts in play?
I know for absolute, without any doubt, that we choose our course. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that we live prior lifetimes. As a matter of fact, numerology is based upon reincarnation. But where the proof lies is really in the karmic numbers. And you really would have to have a great deal of experience of working with clients to understand the validation that comes from it. But karmic numbers in numerology, there are certain numbers that specifically are speaking about a past life experience that was brought into this lifetime to work through. And so when you're literally working with clients that have no knowledge of anything, but you're explaining the karmic number and how it may influence them in this particular lifetime and what it can create, and they have this huge aha moment, like, oh my God, that explains everything. Why what's going on in their life has gone on. So for me, that is the proof, because these people most of my clients have no knowledge of the numbers, no knowledge of their meanings. Mm-hmm. They're just coming to me to look for insight. And then when their life mirrors exactly what the numerology chart is saying, I mean, it's consistent. It's consistently accurate. There's no denying that there is something to living previous lifetimes, especially when people are working through very specific things in this lifetime that comes from the numbers and comes from karma and it comes from the past lives. Also, in numerology, it's interesting that people that have nines very strongly in their chart, like in a life path position or expression position, those people more often than not are interested in past life. They're interested in either reading books on past life regression. They've tried past life regressions. They feel very strongly about past life. And if you read the understanding of the number 9 in numerology, it's talking about a soul that has come, and that this is perhaps the last time that they're going to come into the physical, that their soul has evolved to a point that this might be the last go-around, and when they do pass on from this lifetime, there's somewhere else they're going to go, but it's not going to be in the physical. And you'd be surprised at how many nines, people that have very strong nines, feel very, very much like that, what I just described.
In like for me, and again, one thing that I tell a lot of guests, just a little bit of my history. I'm not a paranormal researcher. I'm not a ufologist by any means. I kind of call myself a researcher's researcher. I like to. I actually had a couple of listeners that actually requested you to be on the program, and so they had heard you talk in some other places, and would love to have you on, and that's why we have you here tonight. And again, I want to thank you for being here tonight. But I find it so interesting for me. I learn so much by every guest I bring on because, where am I going with this? It seems that I don't want to throw the word evolution in there, but I have a hard time believing that most of us know what we know today, experience what we experience today, from just being alive on this planet for the amount of years we're alive. I mean, I'm in my 50s. I kind of tend to believe that the knowledge that I've had, and I don't want to say knowledge, Alison, as far as on paper or anything, but I mean what I've learned in my life. I feel that there's no way in 50 years I could have learned that. I feel that there has to be a lot more to that. I have a new granddaughter who is going to be almost 4 months old, and she's only been on the planet for 4 months, but you can just tell while she can't really talk or even walk yet, her personality, her traits, everything that makes her her. I just get this sense that that just didn't start happening 4 months ago. There's so much more built into that.
Right. I absolutely agree. And going back to, what you had asked about what is a numerologist, I think the people that make for excellent numerologists are people that see patterns and people that have very logical minds and methodical minds that are able to take, these things that simply, it defies the odds. It just simply defies the odds of being serendipitous or being coincidence. People literally, before I ever get to them, they're already vibrating to their energy and their numbers, and their life is already a reflection of that. How is that possible? But numerology explains why, and that's the beauty of it. That's what fascinates me so much with numerology.
Yeah, it's like another piece of the puzzle, and proving that there really is a puzzle there. That there is structure. Even though it may take us all over the place, there really is structure to this life.
Absolutely. There's a reason that we're here, an absolute reason that we're here.
Let me ask,
and why we're the way we are.
Right. Let's talk. Let's just delve a little into the horoscope world a little bit. Do numerologists tend to be Libras?
I don't know. I think a lot of numerologists tend to be 7 life paths. Because 7 life paths are drawn towards the metaphysical. They're drawn to understanding the mysteries of life. They also have high intelligence. They also see patterns in things, logic. I'm a 7 life path, and I find that a lot of numerologists are 7s, but that's not necessarily limited to a 7. Libra, that aspect of it, I am a Libra, so I'm a 7 life path that just happens to be a Libra. That's why it made me laugh. And I think that the Libra works nicely in the sense that Libras are very warm and kind people, compassionate people, loving people. And when you're working with people, your clients, you certainly have to have intelligence and compassion, and also the wherewithal, that understanding that how important what you're saying to them and how you're saying it to them. So I think being a Libra is and of course that's astrology, but I think that it is a benefit.
Well, I noticed that most Libra, I am a Libra myself.
Are you?
And,
okay.
And most Libras tend to be very analytical. They tend to look at things from at least in my from different angles. They like to look at several different points. They don't necessarily just jump in and make a decision.
Oh, seeing both sides of a situation, yes.
Exactly.
That would be Libra.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think in some cases, being a Libra, I think can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing. I think it can be a good thing because Libras can tend to be very analytical, but I think Libras can also be, and when you mentioned about being skeptical, Libras can tend to shoot holes in a lot of things too. Someone comes up with a great idea and goes, hey, this is really, really cool. And I notice most Libras will sit back and say, hey, that is a cool idea, but have you thought about this, this, and this that could go wrong with it? Just my past experience, dealing with that. So, just interesting. I find that's so interesting.
Right. Well, like I say, I see the, be interesting to do your chart. And, perhaps you should send me that information, and we can hook up later on, and I'd be happy to do your chart for you, and we could delve into the mysteries of what the numbers have to say about you.
Oh, I would love that. I'd appreciate it. Let's talk about your book a little bit, Alison, Speaking to Your Soul Through Numerology. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, this book is written really to help people to, actually teach them how to figure out their own numbers and what does it mean. It is, my contribution to the many books that have been written on the subject. I do think that there are some unusual perspectives in there that I've learned through experience with my clients. But I just wanted to share, and I teach a lot. I teach a lot of advanced classes. I teach several groups of people, advanced classes, multiple times a year. So my students were all, when are you going to write the book, Alison? So in a way, it was kind of like a labor of love for my students. But also, I think that the average person can pick up that book and quite literally walk through their life. And one nice thing that I do is, I don't know if, I do have a newsletter, but I've always put out my newsletter that if you purchase the book, and just let me know that you purchased the book, let me know, email me from my website, and I'll send you a copy of your chart, and that will help you walk your way through the book, to be able to look at your own numbers and see what they mean.
Very interesting. You do a radio program as well?
I used to do a lot of radio. I had my own show on BBS Radio for 3 years. Mm-hmm. I've also been co-host on several shows, and I am invited a great deal to go on radio shows. The one reason why I stopped doing radio was just because my practice got so busy. It was very hard to try to juggle everything, so right. I kind of let the radio go for a little bit.
It takes a lot of time trying to do it. Yeah, trying to do this. I used to do this program 6 nights a week. I used to do midnights till 2 and then get up at 7 a.m. and go to work and do a day job and travel for work and that. Yeah, it was it made for some long days. But the people that I met and the guests that I had on were a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
That
was the best part.
Your website, now, if people want to, let's talk a little bit about that. If people would like to get a reading from you or get some work done by you, where can they go get that?
The main website is visiblebynumbers.com, just like it sounds, visible, VISIBLE, by, BY, numbers.com. And I think the website is, there's a lot of really cool stuff there. You can sign up for the newsletter, and I send out monthly forecasts. I've been doing that for my clients for 13 years now, so you could literally get your monthly numerology forecast on them for free in your email box the first of the month. There's a lot of really good resource articles, different things about numerology that people might find interesting. There's information about readings and what you can learn from your readings. There's testimonials. So, yeah, absolutely, visiblebynumbers.com. And I also have another website that more or less has a lot to do. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's called gethisnumber.com, which is kind of funny.
You do the research before you go out on the date is what I kind of got out of it.
Yeah, a little bit of heads up, yeah.
Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
There's no sense in, I don't know, maybe it's cold-hearted, but there's no sense in wasting your time or anyone else's time if you don't feel like if it's a good fit.
Sure. And that's, that was really based upon, you would be surprised at how many women are looking for love and how many people call for compatibility. And, it was based on a dear friend of mine who kept, it's falling in love with all the wrong people, right? Mm-hmm. And I think at least 2 people that she insisted were perfect, I kept saying, no, this is not really going to work. And both times it was just a complete disaster. So I was kidding with her and joking. So that's it. I'm writing a book about this and putting up a website, so all the single ladies out there can get a little heads up, So
now, did you bring numerology into this?
Absolutely, yeah.
So are there numbers? Are there numbers that don't mix well with other numbers?
Well, I wish I could say that we were all just one number, but we are a mixture of numbers.
Right.
So, but there are certain numbers that work really well, and the more intellectual, the more mental types, like the 1, the 5, and the 7, they really go really well together. And then you have the 2, 4s, and 8s, which are mostly business orientated. They're career-orientated, they're efficient and orderly. And then you have the 3, 6, and 9s, which are the artistic, the intuitives, I wouldn't say wooey-woo, but emotional types, So, yes, you can assess, how if you met somebody and if they, just from their date of birth and their day that they were born, that's giving you at least 2 of their numbers, which you can compare to yours and see if that's going to work. But, you could even break it down even further and be able to see where things match up and where they work nicely and where somebody is somebody you really should steer clear of. So,
very, very, very interesting. All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. Our guest tonight for Hour 1 is Alison Baughman. Alison, again, thank you so much for coming on the program tonight and being here with us.
Like I said, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So we talked a little bit, I requested a little bit before we went to break there about getting some numbers, like you were talking about 5s and 7s go together good, and 3s and 2s maybe don't, or I don't know the exact details, but how do you calculate up a number?
Okay, well, there's a lot of various different calculation methods, but if, let's say, somebody was looking really quickly for one number, you could just simply look at the day that you were born, the actual date, the day. So, like if somebody was born on the 1st, obviously they're going to have 1 energy there. The 2nd, they would have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the numbers in numerology. When you come to a 10, you would add 1 plus 0, so it would also be a 1. People that are born on the 11th, 11 is a master number, so that's not reduced. You can go to 12. Any double-digit number, you usually add them, well, you always add them together and reduce to a single digit unless it's a master number. So let's say you had a 12, it's a 1 plus 2, that would be 3 energy. So you can look at the actual day that you're born, and you can easily identify one of your numbers, okay? Now, the life path number is easy enough to calculate. I don't know if you want me to go into it because I don't know how much time you have, but I could teach people to calculate their life path number.
We got 15 minutes.
Okay. So if you wanted to calculate your life path number, you're looking at 3 numbers, okay? You're first going to look at the month that you were born, and once again, if you're born in January, it's a 1, February, it's a 2, March, it's a 3, April, a 4, and so forth. So each month has a number. But when you get into the double digits, okay, you're going to reduce it to a single digit. So when you get into October, you're going to go 1 plus 0 equals 1. Now, November is an 11 month. So because an 11 is a master number, you're going to write down an 11, okay? You don't reduce that. And when you get into December, 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay, so now you have your month number. I already explained the day number. 1 through 9, you just simply write down that number. When it's a double digit, you're going to add the 2 numbers together and reduce it to a single digit unless it's an 11 or a 22. And for some people born on the 29th, when you add 2 plus 9, it equals an 11. So you're going to leave that at an 11. So now you have your month number plus your day number. Okay. And now you're going to go to your year number, and you're going to add that across. So I was, I don't want to say how old I am, but you're just going to add those 4 numbers. So 1 plus 9 plus 5 plus 3 equals 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9, so that would be a 9. So you're basically going to add those 4 numbers of your year across. If it's a double-digit number, you're going to reduce it to a single digit. When you have all 3 of those numbers, you're going to add those 3 numbers together, okay? And when you add them together, once again, you're going to reduce it to a single digit. Unless you get an 11 or a 22, you're going to leave it at an 11 or 22. And one thing that, if somebody's listening, they can just go to gethisnumber.com. There is a life path calculator right there on the website, and you can put your date of birth in there, and it'll tell you your life path number, and that saves a whole lot of trouble. So that'll do it for you automatically. So that's how you get your life path number. Now, any of the other numbers, quite frankly, involves breaking down a name, and we don't have that opportunity to do that on the radio. So,
gotcha. I'm going to go ahead and try mine and see what I come up with here. Hold on one second. This is a pretty cool website, too, by the way. A lot of fun things. Okay, here we go. My life path number is 8.
You're an 8?
Yep.
Okay. So if you want to, do you want me to talk about an 8 for you? Just
sure.
For now? What day were you born on, though?
The 15th. Okay.
So when we have an 8 for a life path number, okay, 8 is what is called mastery. It has a lot of connection to money, power, position, status, okay? And 8 is one of those numbers that requires mastery in this lifetime, not only of the physical world, but also the emotional world, the spiritual world. And so you really have to be able to find balance and nurturing those aspects. It's not just focusing on careers, but most 8s are very focused on their careers. And this is a number of achievements. So a lot of 8s are the type of people that set goals that they want to achieve. It's almost like they're driven, if you will, and they're quite self-disciplined. They're also problem solvers, so they can, and they do things more efficiently than most people. So there's a lot of frustration sometimes with 8s when it comes to delegating tasks, because other people, if they don't know how to do it as well as the 8 does it, the 8 can sometimes get a little bit frustrated about that. But this is a number, sometimes you can be born in poverty, and part of the lesson in life is, rising from the ashes, if you will, because 8s have an opportunity in their lifetime to become powerful people in position in life with, this is a number that can flow a lot of abundance to you as well. Some 8s are born into families that are already affluent. But one thing about this 8 is it does pull powerful and influential people around you. Now, people that have 8s are usually very good, they're a very good judge of character. But you also have to be careful with an 8 because you're going to meet some unscrupulous people in your life, perhaps people that are not necessarily ethical. But it's important for an 8 to understand that in order for you to be successful in life, you cannot do anything unethical, because this is a number that represents instant karma, as above, so below. So you always have to be cognizant about what you're sending out in life, because that's what you're going to receive back. And quite often 8s make that mistake. Like if you take an example of Martha Stewart, she was an 8 life path, and the way her story goes is she got some inside information having to do with some stocks.
Right.
And based upon that, she sold the stocks, and immediately, she ended up being charged and going to jail for it. That is exactly what can happen in an 8 life path. If you do something unethical, you don't have to wait for the next lifetime. You're definitely going to have to deal with it in this lifetime. So most 8s, I think, understand that, and they realize that. The 8 is also one of the numbers that at some point in their life, they can experience some sort of financial reversal. Almost all 8s at some point. Whether it could be a period of time in your life where you're having difficulty with your finances. It could be the loss of a house, a bankruptcy. It could be a loss of a business. But I feel that the numbers literally attract into your life experiences that help you to grow from those experiences. And one thing about an 8, it doesn't matter what happens financially or what happens in their lives. They are the survivors. They don't give up. They don't, throw in the towel. 8s usually just, buckle in, buckle down, and just go on with the business of life. And most 8s can rise from those ashes and become very, very successful. And again, looking into Martha Stewart's life, most people kind of called her career over when she was in jail. And if we look at her, she's just as successful as she ever was now. That didn't take her down. She just buckled down and got on with it. So most eights can be very successful people in life, but it's all about setting those goals. And I think you might be the kind of person at the end of the day, you think in terms of what did I accomplish today, and that pretty much is the thinking of an eight. What have I done? Accomplished. And if you take that attitude in life as an eight, of setting goals, working towards achieving them, you can literally leave a legacy of accomplishment behind. And that's mastery of the physical world. So that's a small definition of the eight.
Wow.
Now, your 15th birthday, this is, that would be considered the Libra energy, if you will. 15, the one thing about the 1 and the 5 is giving you some ability with, I would say, communication. And usually 15s make for very good business people. But it also is saying that you have a kind heart, a good heart, love of home and family. But the 15 also can be an indication of maybe not living close to the family or being separated from the family. Sometimes the 15 can be an indication of a separation from, it could be even in a relationship. But generally a 15 has love of home, hearth, and family and children and that sort of a thing. Community, a sense of community, a sense of justice, right and wrong. And 15s also are, the kind of people that have compassion for the underdog or those that are less fortunate in life. So this is why sometimes they go to bat for people, So I love the 15 because they often say that someone with that energy should be around other people because you have a talent with people. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. You hit on a lot of very truthful points, Alison, through that analysis you did in my situation.
Right.
Interesting. Here's a question that one of our listeners sent in. Let me just post this up. This is a comment and see if you agree. It says, Alison, would you support an assumption on numerology, which is the following? My own personal validation of numerology signifies proof of a measured control system, possibly under tropical and sidereal astrological influences, that is used to help souls attain certain events and experiences that they seek prior to emanating into conscious container born at a certain time, place, and under a certain name.
Sure. Absolutely. The astrology aspects, I'm not an astrologer, so I defer to the astrologers of the world, but absolutely, I believe that we all choose to be born exactly when we're born. And even our name, we might think that that's random, but, any parent that's ever struggled over trying to find the right name for their child, that doesn't sound right, this doesn't sound right. But really what they're searching for is the proper vibration for that child. And usually when the parent finds that vibration, that right name, that's the name that the child is given. And really your name and your date of birth is the blueprint of your life. It is talking about your energy and what you came to do, and it is the blueprint. So, yeah, absolutely, I agree with that statement.
Okay, very good. Yeah, and I think you did. You pretty much summed it up. Again, it's we lay out that life path for us, and it's hard to comprehend sometimes. It's hard. I shouldn't say hard to comprehend, but and I don't want to say it's hard to believe, but I think as we get older in life, we can wrap ourselves around that a little bit more.
Well, absolutely. As I said, and I'm going to be, I'll go back to the skeptical aspects of myself.
Sure.
And that there's one of the reasons, like if you look at my resume and you look at what I've studied, the only reason I approached Reiki was because you read about holistic healing, and I wanted to experience it, and I wanted to test it, and I wanted to see if this was real. And so I set about to study it and have the attunements and experience it. The same thing goes with crystals and stones. Again, it is about, approaching it scientifically and saying, well, this is what they say about crystals and stones. Now what I want to do is I want to experience it and prove it to myself. So most of my life, I've approached things scientifically, looking for the proof in it. And the one thing that has, everything that I believe in is really done in that manner. And the amount of experience that I have, you have to understand how many readings I've done for people, that it is constantly being validated through the readings, because your clients are your greatest teachers. When they tell you the stories of their life and you see those stories literally being spoken by the numbers at that specific moment in time in that person's life, it is almost a humbling experience. How can this divination tool, so far removed from the source, be so incredibly accurate in this day and age? But it is. And so it's the skeptic in me that is in awe of numerology, because it does work.
Do you have some clients that are from time to time are kind of skeptical going in, and when they get finished, you've hit it right on the head, and they're believers forever?
Most people, I have to say that a majority of my clients come from referrals. And usually what happens is I'll do a reading for someone, and then they're so blown away they call up their friends, and the next thing you know, their friends are calling me for a reading. And I've never, I think in my entire career, people are usually blown away. How did you know that? How could you possibly have known that? And one of the things that I focus on is the essence and the transits in the personal year. So, when I can specifically pick out the actual year that someone was divorced, or pick out the actual year that maybe they had a bankruptcy, or pick out the actual, and tell them the actual year and how old they were. How did you know that? Well, numerology. It's that accurate.
Are some people cut out to be numerologists and some aren't? I mean, I assume that it's a science, but it's also an art too.
I think that anyone can learn numerology. Anyone can learn numerology. I think that it takes a certain individual to put yourself on the line and do readings for people. And quite honestly, even if you were mediocre at numerology, you would seem brilliant. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. It is so accurate that most people are, when they experience it the first time, they're like kind of, shaking a little bit. How did you know that? I think the more experience you have, the better you are at it. The more precise you can be with it. The amount of clients that I've read for helps me to be precise, as well as the amount of time that I've studied it. Some numerologists use numerology for a lot of different reasons other than what I do. I choose to use numerology to help people to understand their life and to lead happier, healthier, and more purposeful lives, to give them direction. Sometimes people don't call you for a reading because they're happy. They call you because they're having a problem.
Right.
So you can help them to understand, where's this problem coming from, what is the best way to navigate your way through it, and where are you going to be next year when this isn't really going to matter. So sometimes it's, having that personality to go with the knowledge, to be able to deliver that information to your client where you do no harm, where you actually empower them, uplift them, and give them, the strength to keep on going.
Gotcha. Alison, we got to wrap it up. The hour went too quick. I'd love to visit with you again. I'll send you that info. Best to you. And again, thank you so much for giving up your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Her book is called Speaking to Your Soul Through Numerology. Her website, visiblebynumbers.com. Take care, Alison. Again, thank you so much for being here. All right, bye-bye.